I was aggressive. In hindsight, it was,
Justin is
Probably-
notorious for not accepting other people's perspectives.
true. Yeah. I mean, that's why I'm here on a podcast with 4 other people so that I can just
Dictate opinions.
spew my opinions and not ever listen. So,
I know. I do
mean,
that
it's
every
probably
time.
not far from the truth. But
That's okay, Ben. Nobody listens to you.
Aw, but I got some really hot takes this time.
No, you don't.
oh, geez, yeah.
And if you do, it's because the house next door to you is on fire. That's it.
You and the communists.
I'm
I can't
looting?
wait to hear your hot takes. Like,
Oh,
nobody else has those takes. That doesn't make them hot takes. Like,
Yeah, that just makes them terrible.
aw.
do we
Hey, one of you
introduce the
introduce
topic
us.
or do we just keep talking?
I don't know.
Like,
I don't know. I'm just gonna
okay.
let you guys go.
There's
Yeah.
no point.
So we got the cold open out of the way. This is while we weren't recording. If you were looking for Dresden, join us next week or last week if you're a time traveler.
This is
But-
the off week of we're just gonna do whatever.
Well, we're talking about
Yes.
perfect movies and director's second favorite perfect movie, which also is horror.
I
apparently.
thought this was Justin's pick.
No, I mean,
Oh, no.
so here's the thing. Like, so far, like 98% of the picks, except for the chef, I've seen all of them, and I have no
Chef.
quibbles about them being on the list, right?
Not
So-
just Chef, and it's a great movie.
What about Fast Five?
No, shut up.
No.
That doesn't. So I don't have to include that in the statistics because that's not even on the list anymore, right?
No, it's so good though.
It's a perfect
Oh,
Fast and the
God.
Furious movie.
It absolutely is.
But
Well,
as
but
far as
today-
being
today
a
we're
movie
talking-
itself,
Which one are we talking about this week?
Pitch
Pitch
Did
Black.
you not do the homework?
The other Vin
Oh,
Diesel
oh,
movie. No,
absolutely.
he didn't.
He's probably playing the dumb guy, right, for the trope where like
Playing.
literally just
He's
about the
not
movie,
playing.
There's no way he doesn't know.
There's no playing.
That's not cool.
The fact that we just
It's
talked
okay,
about it.
Ben.
as a
I know you're just playing.
Oh yeah,
If-
oh yeah. I will say I thought the songs were pretty great, but I think Fat Amy was a little obnoxious.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I was like, now the music was something that I paid a little bit more attention to this time and thought was interesting. But yeah. So anyway, so if you're joining us for the first time for some reason, or you haven't seen last week's or the week before's episodes where we were talking about it, like we're talking about movies that we enjoyed, but also that we couldn't think of any way to improve it, right? So the joke being any Nicolas Cage movie is probably immediately better by recasting it, except for Con Air. That's like he seems to actually act in that movie or something.
How dare you? Face Off is not improved by taking him out.
He has
That's
the
that's
worst.
true.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
the
Or
absolute
National
worst
Treasure.
well-done action
Mm.
ever in that movie.
No.
Yeah.
No, I
Nobody
don't
else
think
can
so.
deliver the.
60
It
seconds.
is so
You know.
bad.
No one can steal the Declaration of Independence better than Nicolas Cage.
Those are objectively good movies.
No.
No, they're not.
Really.
They
They're
are.
not.
They're,
This
they're
is-
good. They're enjoyable. They're great. They're
Enjoyable
round-
doesn't make it good.
Yes, it does. It's like saying like Star Wars are not deep movies, but they're
Oh,
like
this says
good
so much
movies.
about your
We-
ranking system.
We made it 4 minutes in before completely. We couldn't even
Let's talk
introduce
about
the
Pitch
topic.
Black. Let's talk
Yeah.
about Pitch
Yeah.
Black instead of Jacob's wrong
So-
opinions.
Pretty much Vin Diesel's first feature film, right?
Yeah, it's his
like
breakout
first-
film.
Yeah.
And he had
Which,
hair for
I
a
mean-
hot minute in it.
Breakout. I mean,
I know he had to shave, so
I
you
thought
know.
Vin Diesel's breakout was the first Fast and Furious movie.
But that
Yes,
was
yes, that was his
doesn't
breakout
it?
because nobody
So-
watched this movie at the time.
Yeah, this was not his breakout.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
No,
sure.
I'm
Unless you count the-
judging
the
it off of
pacifier
the
in that
trivia.
case.
Like, I didn't actually.
Yeah,
go
the trivia
look
said
at-
that this was his breakout. Maybe they're just trying to drum,
Well, his
drum it up a
if by
bit more.
breakout they mean like his first film, then sure.
No, it wasn't his first, but it was like, I don't know, probably the one that got the most attention from anyone.
Pitch Black came out in 2000. Fast and the Furious came out in 2001. So
There we go.
But
I
Fast
do
and Furious, I would say. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I would not.
I would almost guess
breakout
says the
film.
same thing on the trivia for Fast and the Furious.
I mean, depending on what he's done before this, if you compare it to his other filmography that came out before this, then sure, it's a breakout film. But I don't think anybody still knew who he was until Fast and the Furious.
I mean, if we were talking, Iron Giant was what 1999. So technically, I was
Yeah,
going to
but-
have a
Yeah,
whole
but people
bit where
wouldn't know who he was
Yeah.
from that.
Oh, sure,
I mean,
sure.
that's like Alan Tudyk is known for being the chicken in Moana. Like, okay, when you're a Vin Diesel fan, you start to learn those things. But like,
Sure,
he is a
yeah,
robot.
right.
Why did he need to be cast? 1999, they had robots that could have said those lines. Like,
Sure.
that's
My point being, I was going to have a whole bit where I was going to talk about Pitch Perfect for an hour instead of Pitch Black, but
yeah, no,
dang it, it didn't work.
yeah, sorry, we're too clever for that.
No, you outsmarted me. Hey,
That's
like
right.
every fourth grader does that. Okay, so I guess when you talk about a breakout role, I'm pretty sure that Pitch Black flopped at the box office. It was not a particular
it did.
success, but Fast and Furious was spawned a franchise. Riddick is his passion project at this point. There's 2 sequels.
Yeah,
One of them came out 10 years later.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's sci-fi though, right? Like that there's still like, so if you look at it from an outside nerd circles perspective, right? Science fiction, sometimes fantasy, and tech stocks, we're still not sure those are going to work out. The internet we finally got in with, right? The world wasn't sure the internet was going to be a thing. But like,
the
you
internet
still
is so
have-
mainstream now that it's kind of ruined.
Now we just made it responsible for everything in our lives that we can't do without
Yeah,
it.
yeah. That's not the point. The point is like,
There it is.
people don't go see sci-fi movies, right? They don't go see movies starring women, especially not women superheroes, right? No, this is not my opinion. This is studio stupidity, right? How long did we have to wait for a Wonder Woman movie or Black Widow and shit like that? Like, sci-fi, especially in the 2000s, they're still not really sure this thing's going to catch on, despite the fact that Star Wars came out 30 years prior and Star Trek's been going for 50 years and shit like that. Like, you just get that sort of thing. And so like, when I talk about movies like Pitch Black or Fifth Element or
That's a good
Galaxy
movie.
Quest, which only halfway counts because it's still kind of a parody. Like,
It is a parody.
non-Star Wars and non-Star Trek, right? Because if you're talking to a non-nerd, they're like, oh, sci-fi, you mean like Star Trek? Yeah, but no. Like,
Right.
only incidentally, because it's in the same genre. Like, this couldn't be farther from Star Trek, like, in a lot of ways. Like, none of these characters are what you would call diplomatic, except for maybe the Imam.
I got a lot of Firefly vibes from Pitch Black in a way.
Sure. Came out a couple of years before, but
It's
Yeah, but
definitely
you could-
it's
Same
definitely more of an
era, right?
alien. It's definitely more of an
but,
alien.
but what I mean is like because it's very very close to Firefly in terms of
There's
of
no
age,
lasers.
and I have seen Firefly a fair few times, and like the tech is kind of in the same vein, like advanced
Right.
human tech kind of, and
Well, the
it was
words
kind of
that they
gritty. And,
yeah, exactly. The words that they use to describe it these days is gritty, right? This is part of, like, this is probably the bow wave of gritty sci-fi, right? Because it really started to take a hard turn after 2001 for some reason. Anybody who actually knows. But yeah, like, obviously this came out before that, but because you get similar things with Enterprise, which I'd still have to look up. Enterprise, might have come out around this same time, a little bit earlier.
the TV show, right? Yeah, that
Right.
I didn't think about that, but I can see what you mean, because it's different. What I do remember is it's very different from the other Star Trek shows.
I guess what you do have movies like Dark City, and even Star
Yeah.
Trek took the dark turn with Deep Space Nine before kind of cheating back a little with Voyager, right? So it's the state of sci-fi this time. Oh, The Matrix had just come out 2 years earlier. That's
Right.
definitely hard. Well, I don't know if it's hard sci-fi, but it's definitely pretty gritty sci-fi.
Yeah.
No, hard sci-fi is,
So it doesn't
That's a
have.
separate argument. Let's just
That's
admit that
separate.
fit.
It doesn't really have a.
That's
it do-
4 episodes back.
Yeah.
I would say that Pitch Black really fits in very nicely, very tightly with that, with a sort of if you play the game Fallout, that kind of Fallout
Yeah.
aesthetic, where it's
Okay.
it's a low budget horror movie with kind of a sci-fi veneer, right?
Right.
And everyone has Australian accents, so it fits in with
Not
the
everyone.
first Road
Just a
Warrior.
couple.
A couple, okay. It fits in with first Road Warrior. It fits in the tradition of the Alien and Terminator, and it's kind of the '90s version of that with Vin Diesel.
Well, and I mean,
2000.
they filmed it in the Outback, so that might have influenced some of the
And the soundtrack
you know.
too, right? It's got the
The music
would-
is unique, you know.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
the same.
I would
They use
also
the
say
exact same sounds in Chronicles of Riddick, which I didn't notice until watching it the other night. Like it is the same sounds, and they just kept it maybe in a sense of continuity. I don't know.
Right.
Sequels, keeping continuity. The devil, you say.
They attempted to, at least on some parts.
I mean, yeah. But what I would say, I mean, I would now that I've just this is the first time I watched Pitch Black, but I've seen the other Riddick movies. I would say that this was, I mean, you could definitely tell it was low budget, right? But I really feel like they worked very well with what they had, even for a movie that's like 20 years old now. The monsters didn't hold up very well.
The CGI did not quite hold up,
no.
I'd say.
I have no quibble on the CGI because it's just that's not the point of it.
I thought the
Sure.
cinematography was great. The lighting in the scenes, I thought that was really good.
Yeah, when
Like
they do the weird things of like there's 3 different suns and they all have a different color scheme, and so all of the colors of everything you're looking at changes. I thought that was really cool.
Right. And that's important for about 50 minutes, and then it's
But
black.
not just
So-
when it's dark. I mean, when they're inside, it's normal. And then when they're out in the dark, it's dark. And there's like they do very well with the flames from when they do that, and the light they walk around with, and when they're fighting in the green light as well. I thought that was all very very well done.
Yeah.
His eye thing, I think that looked okay too. Actually, like even though that was,
I mean, they
wasn't
were
so-
contacts, right? So
Yeah, that was
so at least a
computers.
chunk of that is
Actually,
practical
I meant
effects.
his what he sees when we see his point of view.
Yeah,
Ah,
that
I
was
thought that
always
held
fun.
up,
That
what I didn't the monsters. I'm not sure that made sense to me.
echolocation to
Yeah, because I thought it was
rough.
echolocation, right?
uh-huh.
Well, I don't think they thought of that as an echolocation, but they do actually see. They just see things that are moving. So maybe that's why they move in order to get the different things.
But they also
But
did
the
the
Imam makes
smell
the
thing with
comment.
blood.
They what?
They do the
Right.
smell thing with blood,
Yes.
which is why Jack gets exposed for who she is.
being
Right.
real.
Which I mean, just all of that stuff, right? Like it's the twists, right? So like, you know, you take the movie holistically. It's like, okay, you're on here, you get Riddick's narration. You're like, who the fuck's this guy? The ship
Mhm.
gets hit by micrometeorites, which the first time, like, despite the fact that they mention it several times, the first time I was just so wrapped up in the action, I didn't even know what the fuck was going on. Just the
Yeah.
ship is crashing, and
But you
now
see it-
we've got a convict loose on the planet. And then it's like, no, it gets worse. And then you find out that almost everybody is like a dick, right? And so then you're like, and you're fucking off, and you almost killed everybody, and he's a merc, and he's a she, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? And like everybody has a
definitely-
secret story, you know, like
It
so-
definitely took some. I mean, you know, I've you've heard of the movie, so I knew a lot of the things what was going to happen and stuff. But it definitely, I could see it. If you go in, you don't really know. It's pitch black. Oh, this looks like a cool movie to go watch, and you really just like it. You get several almost genre twists throughout the movie,
Mhm.
and I thought that was I could see that being a great experience, going to the movies to watch it.
I
right,
think
because
yeah.
it starts out as kind of like a survival horror type of thing, or like a thriller because the killer is now loose, and now we've got to worry about that.
And haunting
then,
them.
Yeah, and then the monsters come, and they mostly come out at night, mostly, you know,
And
and so
the whole character
Sorry.
development thing too, like you
Yeah, the characters
okay,
are
so
really fun.
so she's kind of she tried to throw everybody off the ship, and kind of gets that, like, by the end she tries to save people. There's not much character development for the merc / police
No, I
officer.
disagree because he went on a huge downward spiral, and it was wonderful to watch because when
But I
you
didn't-
first
I
see
don't
him in the
suppose-
beginning, he looks like a cop. He's
he's a cop,
kind of
right?
yes,
Yeah.
and they
And
call
then
him
he's
that.
a merc.
But like he's calm, he's kind of professional, he's friendly, he's like someone that they're learning to trust because they don't know who he is, but they're going to trust him anyway. And then he has this downward spiral of like needing a fix, getting the fix, arguing with Fry, and just like becomes more and more of an aggressive dick. And I really enjoyed his descent.
I agree with all these things, except I don't really call that character development because that's who he really was.
Character
Riddick
revealing.
had Riddick's had character development. He was just lying.
Right.
I also think that the
Riddick's-
situation was pressing on Johns enough that he was also losing it. So he,
Right.
in a normal situation, he would be calm and collected and handle his addiction normally. And then as you're on a desert planet, then it's at night and the monsters are coming out and they're eating everyone around you, and you have a murderer that you hate because he stabbed you in the back. And now that's why you have the opiate addiction and you're trying to get off the planet, but you need his help to do it. That guy's going to lose it.
Right. Yeah, and
Yet you
what I
reward
thought-
with him to go kill some girl so that you can use her as bait.
Right.
Somehow.
You know, yeah, so there's that too. That's his final rock bottom. And then that's where you also see Riddick just be like, Riddick start his ascent a little bit, right? You know, like obviously he's helping and whatnot, but then it's like, yeah, okay, Johns is going to get these people killed, and I'm not necessarily down with that, you know? So one of the things I was going to say about John's character as well is that he was a little bit more sympathetic to me this time, not in
Yeah.
the sense like obviously he does his final descent, but like when I've watched it in the past, like when they catch him shooting up and things like that, it's like, oh, you junkie is Fry's take, right? And so, you know, I basically saw it through her eyes and just be like, you could have helped Owens, you could have helped all these people, and you've been holding back. But then when he's like, no, dude, I actually got stabbed and all of this stuff, like I always took it as an excuse in the past, but this time it was like, you know, hey, you're judging me before you know all the facts about the situation, and you're being manipulated, you know, a little bit, but it doesn't necessarily take the edge off of the final thing of like,
No, I think it adds
honestly,
to
as
it.
dark as it is, it's still pragmatic that, you know, look, Jack is bleeding and there's nothing you can do about that, and that's putting everybody at risk. Obviously there's about 3 other retards in front of that line, you know, because you get the guy, the
Harris.
antiquities dealer that I always took as a smuggler. This time around, I'm like, no, he's like totally legit, right? He's like one of the only guys that doesn't have a dark secret.
I was supposed to say, he
Because he-
seems very upfront. Yeah, he was just like,
Yeah.
I'm just kind of a spoiled rich guy, and that's who
Yeah,
I
he's
am.
he's
And
what
I
they would
think-
call a fop.
Well, and I think
Fop
he
is
was
exactly-
guilty by association because almost everybody else except for Claudia Black's character,
Shaza.
Shaza, you know, like she's one of the only other ones. Like there's like 3 that aren't at least hiding a secret, right? What was Zeke, right? So Zeke, you don't get enough out of him for him
And
to
He does
do
kill a
anything.
guy.
Yeah, he had that
Yeah,
moment
but-
of killing a guy by accident.
Also,
Yeah,
he's
it's-
Australian, so I mean, he's
Yeah,
definitely a
They're
bad
all
person.
criminals, right?
Well,
wouldn't-
Shaza's Australian too, so it's like she's in line with him.
Yeah, but
That's
I
fine.
never liked her. She always
Why
annoyed me.
not?
No, she's
She-
annoying.
she's the token dumb. She's one of the token dumb characters for sure, right? Like
No, the
and
random pilgrim kids were the token dumb characters.
no, I mean them too for sure. But her whole thing, like how she gets killed, and like watching that scene again as well, where it's like Riddick pretty much is like he uses her as bait because he just lays there and, you know, doesn't say like so much as wait, no, stop, because he realizes she's gonna panic and do her thing, and then that's his time. And like I think he even stands up and like dusts
Yeah.
himself off and just saunters into the place. you know?
When the Paris guy crawls off and destroys the power thing, so they lose
Oh,
the light.
yeah.
I was like, that irked me. I was like, no, why are you?
Yeah. Because that was their best chance to make it, right? You know, like, you know, maybe something else could have happened and whatever else. But like, that's also like, this almost becomes grimdark in the sense that like, no matter what the quote unquote heroes do, whatever the protagonists do, the universe fucks them, right? Somewhere, somehow, all the way to the end.
Yeah, when it starts
And-
raining and Riddick laughs and he's like,
Where's your God now?
Exactly. And that's part of why I like the movie though, is because Riddick's lines, he says next to nothing comparatively, and all of his lines are memorable.
He had
Pretty
that
much.
one really dumb
Like-
line though. Like after
Which
killing one of the aliens, I did not know who he was fucking with. It's like
That's
you
one
didn't
of
need
the
to
best
say.
lines of the movie. I'm not gonna let you sit here
It
and
was
tell me that.
so cheesy. Like
I use that all the time.
no. What was cheesy was the takeoff where he like stops and we can't leave without saying goodnight.
God,
I can
you
forgive
guys-
that one a lot more. I mean,
These
it's
are
cheesy,
action movie lines. It's not like some motherfuckers are always trying to.
I was
skate
about to
uphill,
say
but-
you'll defend this one, but you won't defend Blade.
No, Blade is, come on. I love me some Blade, and Whistler has some of the best lines. Catch you fuckers at a bad time. Like, come on. But
Some motherfuckers
Black-
always trying to
I
ice
do like
skate
a good-
uphill is so descriptive. It is perfect for the situation. It describes all the things. It is deep philosophy.
You're right. I'm taking
It
Pitch
is
Black
actually-
off of the perfect movie list because Riddick
No.
didn't say some motherfuckers don't try to ice skate uphill. But like,
No,
didn't know
I've
who
got
he's
no
fucking
problem
with is such a
Riddick
Riddick
line
line.
or with the Blade line is my point. They're identical. That you think one is so much worse than the other is astounding. They're the same.
It's what a badass would say.
It is great.
So-
I like those lines. It's part of those kind of movies, right?
Right.
It gives you like it's something you remember, right? Like some motherfucker always trying to ice skate. Like you remember that forever.
Well, and it's funny too because like I didn't care until the last time I watched it, and I was like, "Oh God, why?" You know, like it's so dumb. Like so much of the rest of the movie is great, but yeah, I was like, "Who thought? How did that get out of the boardroom?" That's usually my question when it's like, just there are very few movies like, despite you've got one writer credit or whatever, right? It's not like these guys aren't bouncing this shit off of somebody else. It's not like there isn't a room of executives at some point where they're like storyboarding this out and be like, how did that make it out of that meeting? Like, someone was like, can you explain that to me? Why is that the line we're going with? You know,
I choose to believe that was entirely ad lib.
right? Now that could be depending on the movie and the actor, but yeah. So
That's exactly the kind of thing I could see Wesley Snipes coming up with and being like, "No, we're putting this in the movie."
And I'm Wesley Snipes, and I'm the hardest thing right now. So
yeah,
well, he
This
was
is
In
pre-tax.
hindsight,
Well,
I
it's in the
agree
middle
with
of
you,
tax
but-
evasion, but nobody knew it yet.
yeah, right. But yes, so you're right. The kids were dumb, right? And then
Well,
you,
they're cannon
When I
get
saw
them,
them-
fodder.
you get
Yeah,
them knocked off.
when I saw
early
them, I
enough,
was like, "Oh,
except
the
for
cannon
one.
fodder's coming there."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, oh, doesn't speak English and has curiosity. Like, oh, cool. You know, he's small enough to fit in the hole in that side of the building. Sweet.
Mhm.
You know,
I mean, they used them to good effect, I would say, but they
Right.
were like they had names. I'll give them that, but you don't remember that.
right.
And then it's
Well-
like, yeah, they just fucked off.
Without context, it's hard to sort it out from all the other. You know, it's not. I don't speak the language, right? So
Mhm.
you catch some of it from context. You know, the water, or obviously everybody knows. You know, God is great and whatever like that. But that honestly, I think that added as well is that you've got this. You know, you've got these basically Muslim pilgrims in the middle of this sci-fi adventure, and you get it decently well, right? Like they focus on the Hajj, they focus on, you know, praying to the east and things like that, and you get all this little hokey, superstitious, you know, like blue sun, blue water, right, guys? And it just happens to work out for them
Yeah.
and whatever, you know. But
And they're in a desert.
yeah,
Also,
right.
I mean, I guess you gotta just kind of like forgive stuff like that, or just like that's okay, that's how it is. Like it's been exactly 22 years, the 22 years where the
Yeah.
sun will. And,
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the whole premise of the movie, right? You know, but yes, if you look at it from the universal perspective, be like, this one ship crashed, you know, 2 hours before the fucking 7-year eclipse. Like, what?
And
the hell?
that close to, you know,
Mhm.
the outpost.
Right? Yeah. So those are all you know, gimmies for the movie, but
Yeah, those are-
honestly, like
hand wave,
even-
we accept them, they're gone.
right, even dealing with the previous colonists and things like that, I thought that was great. You know,
Mhm.
they get investigative enough where it's like, you know, here's understanding what's happening, and it doesn't necessarily pull you out of the movie, right? You know, they were like, you see the Ori before it gets used to actual effect,
Yes.
you know, the core samples, things like that, and they're like, wait a minute, you know, and
They have no
and
lights
then-
because there's no darkness, and so they just never install the lights because
Right,
as they were there,
because
it was for
they're
everyday
like-
light.
what the hell is going on with all this shit? This is so weird. And then they're like, oh, it's starting to make sense. And, you know, and then you even get John's, right? Like where some of his descent starts, where they get locked in one of the cargo containers. And he's like, we're just going to wait it out. And it's like, Riddick's like, yeah, that's what the colonists thought, you know, and they start their infighting there. And, you know, Imam comes up and he's like, yeah, I kind of got the impression this was a Last in Darkness. I don't think we're waiting this one out.
Yeah.
You know, so it all adds to it. And one of the things that's a little teeny tiny disappointing because I'm a nerd is that, from the trivia you get, they actually were going to like go through the cavern system, I think, and find out more about like the actual
Yeah.
life cycle and some of that stuff
Because
and why it makes
there
sense.
are these
But
huge questions of like, there's
I have-
these like megafauna graveyards.
right.
So
How does that
obviously,
work?
yeah, what ate them, obviously, but where is the rest of the population of food that sustains these monsters?
And,
Right.
and why does a planet with 3 suns develop life that's sensitive to light?
Because they live
Right.
underground.
Because they have
Well.
7 years of darkness. Out
Yeah,
of
they live in the
22.
caverns. They build the caverns because they're hollow. I assume kind of like termites. They do some weird
Right.
shit like that. So they make their situation as they need it to. And when the 22-year eclipse happens, or every 22 years, they seem to go haywire. Like it's like completely berserk after
Mardi
they
Gras.
were being quiet in the caverns and just being normal. I don't know. I wonder.
Normal.
Presumably,
Normal.
I always understood it as like a kind of hibernation, right? Like that might be my headcanon, but because they're certainly active while Fry is down there,
Yeah.
and they grab Zeke, right?
Yeah.
However, like that could just be some of them waking up right in advance of the cycle. And that was how I filled in the headcanon, but I'm curious if there is more like, apocrypha on that sort of thing.
Yeah, if they go dormant for 20 years and then they start waking up, that would be interesting. But it also,
Right.
I kind of took it to be, at least this last time watching it, thinking of like a very vicious but kind of life cycle, so that this eclipse period might be part of like their mating periods. That's why they're killing each other as
Right.
competition. And so it's
I thought they
integral
were
to them.
I thought they were competing over the food.
There's that,
Some
but
of
they
that
were also
too,
killing each
yeah.
other almost like just because when it started raining and they're going through the caverns, they're not even trying to attack the people anymore. They were just killing
Right.
each other above.
Yeah, that was what do you call it? No Man's Land or whatever, like Death Valley.
Yeah.
With that little canyon that they had to go into when it started raining.
Mm-hmm.
Because at first it was blood and entrails, and then it actually started raining, and then that's when you get like, "Where's your God now?" So.
I like the whole like I was bringing up earlier, the development of like the good guy, so like becoming the bad, or revealing that he's kind of a bad guy, and
Right.
Riddick kind of going. So I kind of feel like they met in the middle somewhere. Riddick's going from like present as a bad guy and has some development, turns into more like a Molly Gray character, and the other guy he turns into more of a bad guy, but not a total bad guy, but still a bad guy. But they meet somewhere in the middle.
He was definitely going to murder Jack. Like if it had been
At
up
least
to
he was on
him.
board with the idea. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's the only guy with a gun, so he gets to make the decisions, right? Like that's his headspace. Everybody else is an idiot except for me. And I'm
The
biggest
arm scene,
idiot
by
of
the
all,
way, that was really cool.
Oh, the
Yeah.
shoulder
And-
dislocation.
No,
the elbow, like where
his-
they're
Oh,
fighting.
yeah.
Yeah.
his arm or it's broken or elbow or something, and he just like sets it back.
Yeah.
Watching this movie as a
how can
kid-
he use that arm now?
Exactly. Yeah, watching this as a
Right.
kid, it's like, oh, that must have hurt. But yeah, you can still fight. And knowing as an adult how bad injuries last, it's just like that would have taken someone out really, because like it would just be too much swelling, too much. And then he pulls over 300 pounds of
Yeah.
energy pods, whatever they are, in a
Power
canyon
cells, yeah.
in the rain. Going
Yeah.
uphill is like with the arm that he basically just broke after the shoulders he
Some
just
motherfuckers
dislocated.
are always trying
Yes.
to skate uphill.
That line
That
works
was
in every
perfect.
single
That's
movie.
perfectly delivered.
ever
Every single
existed.
context.
You're right.
Just like-
This one's off the perfect movie list. They didn't bring that
No,
line.
just like how Nicolas Cage can enhance every
movie.
movie, this line can enhance every movie.
Yeah.
Not a single. Will you see Frodo and Sam climbing up Mount Doom? Throw that line in.
Up there like some
Some
motherfuckers.
Luke is
Oh,
doing the
man.
trench run in Star Wars just before he fires. Boom. Throw the line.
No, I think it's better from Han Solo, right? Because he gets the drop on Vader,
Sure.
and so
Also good.
he's like, some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate up.
What if every line in the movie was replaced with that?
No,
like-
that's too far.
That's
No.
ridiculous. You just gotta throw. It's like every PG-13 gets one fuck. Every movie should get one. Some motherfuckers always try.
Well,
to
that's your one fuck. So yeah.
That's true.
Maybe instead of
Yeah.
"Hello There" in the second or third Star Wars movie, jumps down. Some motherfuckers are always trying to.
No.
Well,
It's
see-
after he shoots him. Instead of saying "so uncivilized," he says,
No,
"Some
no.
motherfuckers are always
No.
trying to-"
It's in Empire Strikes Back Leia says, "I love you," and Han Solo says,
Hey,
Now you guys are being silly. I mean, the prequels are almost a gimme because you got Samuel L. Jackson, so
correct.
he's going to deliver the fuck line no matter what it is, right? If you only get one fuck, he's going to say it. So, like
Anakin
he's
jumping.
talking to Yoda at the end of Phantom Menace because you get to see him for like 5 minutes, and Yoda's like, "But which one was this? The Master or the Apprentice?" And he's like, "Some motherfuckers."
No, he says, "Take a seat, young Skywalker," and then under his breath he says, "Some motherfuckers."
Anakin
man.
jumping up, fighting Obi-Wan, and afterwards, when he gets cut to pieces, some motherfucker's always trying to like it. I like that. I feel like it should be in every movie.
Yes, it should.
Yeah, you underestimate my powers. It's
Some motherfuckers.
Always try to force jump uphill.
Right.
Perfect.
A thing in this movie.
So now that we know no movie is perfect except for Blade because it's the only one that has this line, is there anything else that we would change for Pitch Black? Right? Like, is there?
change? I
Because
want.
he's a nobody actor
Yeah.
for the time. Like, so do we grab a Brad Pitt? Do we grab Tom Cruise or hell, Mark Hamill or whoever? And like, who can pull off Riddick or Johns or anything like that? Because I think the fact that they're almost nobody, and even like, so Claudia Black is not a nobody, but
Right.
she's so
Was she not
innocuous
back
in
then?
the role that it's hard to remember. Like, oh yeah, shit, you're famous, at least
Yeah.
for the time. Like, she's a really good, at least TV actress and things like that. I can't think off the top of
She
my
was
head
in
what the
Farscape.
movies-
She was in the Dresden
Yeah,
Files
right.
show.
She was in
Nobody
the
wants
hockey stick.
Stargate.
That's right. I know her
Yeah,
from Stargate.
obviously.
I know from Stargate.
Right.
I'm trying to get my wife to watch Stargate because I told her, "Hey, you'll like it. It's like if Luke from Gilmore Girls was an action hero, and there are forests. You'll like it because you like forests." I was trying to get her to watch Stargate.
There
It
are
didn't work.
there
It
are
hasn't
a
worked
lot
so
of
far.
forests.
I hope
A
you
lot
never
of
worked in
forests.
retail because your sales pitch.
Yeah, that was a bad sell.
You could tell some of the episodes was just like, okay, this has to be a cheap one.
Right.
We're going to the forests.
Yeah. So
Totally
I guess
low budget strategy.
up to this point, she had been in Xena and Hercules, and she's in the middle of Farscape because Farscape runs 99 to 2003.
Farscape
So-
was fun.
Right. So, and I mean, she's
Never
great
seen
in that,
Farscape.
right? But I think that's where a ton of people would know her, at least until later. Some of the rest of this, like, she's in other shows, but I don't really recognize her.
She does voices
Yeah.
on Rick and Morty a few times recently.
Nice.
I don't know, it's like as a recent thing I've come across her mostly in that, and after just loving Farscape as a kid. But I always thought that her character ended too early, but watching it again as paying attention to the pacing, it's like I don't know when she should have died anywhere else,
Right.
and someone needed to die there. She did a really good job with that crazy death scene.
Right. Oh God, dude.
Yeah,
Like,
being eaten in half and then flying away half
And
of
then
your
being-
body is
yeah.
like Jesus.
Right. Yeah. And that was several times in before I realized that was what was going on, and it was like, holy shit, like that's
Mhm.
brutal.
Reminds me of this the line Riddick has, which is also a really good line. Where's John's? Which half?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
I thought acting wise they mostly did well. I feel like I've actually felt Vin Diesel was pretty good here for his first role, and what I especially think he did really well. I think his line deliveries were okay, but his physical acting was surprisingly good.
Yeah. So I wouldn't switch out any of the actors.
Right.
Actually, like the actor for Johns was so like he is a bad guy asshole when I was a kid. When I ever saw him in a movie elsewhere, I just immediately assumed he's a bad guy, whether or
Well,
not he
what?
deserved it.
He was in Too
Right.
Fast, Too Furious. He was the bad guy.
Oh, was he?
Oh yeah.
I have not seen them.
More
Yeah.
Fast
crossover
and
with
Furious.
Vin
Next
Diesel.
time on Perfect Movies.
The
It's one
one,
of
the
those
one, the one Fast and Furious movie Vin Diesel wasn't in.
No, there's two. There's two.
No, he was in a cameo
Well,
at
I
the end
guess
of.
Tokyo Drift.
That's
He
right.
did have a cameo to
Yeah,
get the
it did.
Chronicles right.
Well, what about Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw? Is that a Fast and Furious movie?
I mean,
Not now.
It's just,
It's a
can we just not?
No.
Like,
Yeah,
it's an ill-conceived spin-off because two alpha males couldn't get along.
That's the whole
That's what it
premise.
is.
I mean, 3. There's a villain.
No, they defeat Idris Elba with the
No,
power
he-
of friendship. It's an
he means
anime.
he means in real life with Vin
Yeah.
Diesel on The Rock.
Oh.
These like Rock can't be on the same set together.
The same reason Bruce Willis and Sylvester Stallone couldn't do a third Expendables, because Bruce Willis was getting on his nerves.
Huh. That's ironic for somebody with his speech pattern, but I'm curious about those. Like, I'll have to look up some of those stories actually. So, especially because like The Rock, presents himself as so like genial, right? But everybody's
It's
human.
actually-
Everybody's going to get annoyed about something.
Oh, I could see
somewhere,
him being a
but-
drama queen behind
It's
it.
actually probably
Sure.
more Vin Diesel's fault, to be fair, from what I've read. But it's
Uh-huh.
because they have different mindsets. The Rock is very grind, get up early, do it now, and Vin Diesel is more like, I gotta be in the mood mindset to do this scene. So The Rock got really annoyed.
See,
from what
it's
I read.
ironic because I read the exact opposite. That it was The Rock
Yeah.
who was always just kind of like, I'll be there when I'm there.
Gotcha.
I mean, go read up on it if
Yeah.
you're interested.
But don't read the European version because apparently you get the wrong story.
Now you get the correct story. A thing in this movie, to go back on subject, because I wanted to
Thank
bring
you.
up that I thought made no sense and would be something I would change, unless I missed something. They get back to the ship and they're like, oh, we gotta go back. And Vin Diesel's Riddick's like, no. And then she convinces him and they go back. Why didn't they take the ship, land close, get them in, and
Canyon.
leave?
Yeah.
Then land close. You can be closer.
Canyon. They're about as close as you can get to that canyon.
Right.
It seemed like a very vast, open nothingness around, no canyon in sight.
Is it because it was pitch black and you couldn't see how narrow it was?
There was lights earlier.
Oh, the better complaint is how did they get back there seemingly so easily to
They still had
find
light.
them?
They had the flashlights, right? He threw them at the flashlights. They had
It's,
light.
still,
They had light.
they got that there without any.
And the aliens were busy like skull fucking each other. So
Well, they pretty much they did seem to like leave and then like they just reappear again near the ship so you could have your final confrontation.
right.
I heard that did come to a surprise to me, because I only vaguely knew about the movie. I didn't know how many people survived exactly, and I kind of thought they were like, okay, this is the people who are making it.
Right. Yeah. 3. So
She's the pilot, and then I remembered when they were like hugging or something, like right before she dies, like, but he can also fly.
right.
So I was like, they
Oh,
need
yeah,
her.
she's
I was
there.
thinking, yeah.
Yeah, my first time through when she gets grabbed, I'm like, fuck, like that's everybody, that's it, folks. And then I'm like, oh yeah, they were worried about him being a pilot, and then when he powers it down, and you're like, oh shit, he really is a killer. He's just gonna finish the job now. Like I don't know, but like I had like a little panic, when he powers it down the first time, being like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, go now.
I
is the
actually
time
want to
go.
see
And
that
then-
cut where he just goes and either kills one of them and then throws the other one outside or something.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, up to that point, like, despite him helping and everything like that, like, he always felt like he had an ulterior motive. He's always positioning himself to be the sole survivor and whatever else. If anybody's going to make it, it's going to be him. To borrow a little bit from Chronicles of Riddick, like the prison escape scene, it's like there is one speed, mine. If you fall behind, you get left behind, type of thing. So I'm thinking that when they're running through the canyon and he yells, move, and then they just run, because it's other than he gets a little bit more explicit in Chronicles of Riddick, it's a very similar scene to them running through the
Crematoria.
Yeah, I'm thinking like the sulfur. Yeah, the sulfur.
Yeah, the surface of
spigots and whatever.
crematoria.
Yeah. So it's a
ridiculous
very
planet
similar
that
kind
was.
of thing, but in this movie, like he still is like it's like him. It's his character development, right? Like it's the easy way to say it. And you get that one little line from Fry. Like I said, I'd die for them, not for you. And then 30 seconds later,
Yeah.
she gets grabbed and his heart goes too, and you're like, fuck.
I think I would have liked if Riddick was actually a little bit more evil, like more of justified as to why Johns was so freaked out about him.
I think what the point comes, right, is like, so Johns is the one spinning the narrative. We don't fully know what his backstory is, but when you get it from Riddick's thing, he plays into it, right? Because he likes the fear, he likes the manipulation. But if you take it also from like the future movies, it's an animal thing. Riddick isn't evil any more than a wolf is evil, right? Like Riddick's not killing you because it's funny. at any
He's very
point, even in the
pragmatic.
future, yeah, exactly. At any point, even in the future, like, who does he murder? Like, how many murders do we actually see attributed to him versus, like, even taking crematory and be like, oh yeah, we're gonna kill you, and I'm gonna get those goggles, and it'd be like, what are you gonna do? Kill me with your cup?
Teacup.
Yeah, like Teague actually, and they just keep pushing him until he does. And like that, and that's kind of the thing. And like then you get Riddick, the latest edition, and he's basically on no man's planet, and he's got a wolf best friend because it's an animal thing, like because he's some
John
kind
Wick
of sci-fi space.
edition.
Yeah, he's a space sci-fi ranger. That's what he is. Like,
Yeah.
everybody thinks he's the rogue assassin, but he's really a ranger. Sorry,
In
guys.
Pitch Black, he's absolutely a sneaky thief. Like, he snuck up to her and cut her hair off without her
Sure.
noticing.
Creep.
That
Yeah.
scene was
Yeah.
creepy as fuck.
It was great. I mean, I
It
love that
is
kind of
great.
creepy things. It's just, I don't.
I also love when he grabs the fops, alcohol while they're like looking for him, and they blast the guy, right, and he's just in the background, and you zoom in for no fucking reason because he's just there.
He's
Yeah.
under the umbrella
Everything.
chilling.
That
you
was
know?
great. That scene. That's what I'm talking about. His physical acting, the way he was just sitting there, like, oh, that guy got shot. I mean, there's wine here. I'm good. Like, whatever.
Right. So yeah, but and I think that's kind of like one of the underlying themes of this in general, and you get more of it in Chronicles of Riddick, and you get it quite a bit in the 30-minute short, is that the mercs are the bad guys. Like, if anybody is like bad and evil, like, obviously it's like I said earlier, it's kind of grimdark, right? Everybody's a piece of shit somewhere, with very few exceptions. But like, the mercs are the ones that are actually like abusing their authority and killing people for no reason and whatever else. From some of the trivia, it's suggested that like Riddick was like he was like special forces is why he can do
Right,
everything.
and actually, I
And-
really dislike that. I
Yeah.
like it more like. It seems in Pitch Black and Chronicles of Riddick, he understands people, but he does not relate to them, and they've used that to feed into the whole animal thing
Sure.
that he does. And so, like, as you go through Pitch Black, he understand what Fry's scared of, why they all care about Jack, or like how they're reacting, but he does not relate to it. So it's almost like he's trying to understand more.
Mhm.
But I think it would have been better if he had actually been maybe a little bit more violent, more of an actual dangerous past, and not he was the one guy in the military situation that didn't want to kill people because he's the
Right.
Mary Sue that's a hero. I would like, it's okay for him to be a Mary Sue to a certain extent of like how he accomplishes everything, of like the scene where he was drinking the alcohol after they just shot the guy accidentally. That's fine to me, but I wanted him to be a bit more actually dark in his past and actually like trying to change a little bit more, instead of he's being presented as the bad guy in the beginning, and then he's shown as being actually a good guy through the whole time through. As if he had actually been a bad guy, more of a bad guy in the beginning, I would have liked that more. I
I would
think.
say I wouldn't say he's like a good guy. He's like a good guy. But that's kind of part of the theme of the movie, right? Like the good guy kind of becomes the bad guy kind of becomes the good guy, and
Right.
And I do really enjoy how like Riddick and Johns had like they crossed each other, like you said, of like the descent versus ascent, and I liked that. I just like, could he have started a little bit more gruesome?
It also depends, right? So that, first of all, just to establish, like, there's so little we do understand, right, about it, but I don't think that the backgrounds are mutually exclusive, right? If you take him at his word, if we're pretending he's not pulling a Joker, right, where he's just spinning a yarn and he's like, he's got 12 different origin stories. If you take him at his word that he had his umbilical cord wrapped around his neck and left in a dumpster, like, who fucking does that, right? And then you also take Chronicles of Riddick, where it turns out that his planet got wiped out because they were the only people that could stop the High Marshal and the Necromongers. Now that's Mary Sue,
Is it
right?
ever
That
really
is the chosen
explained
one.
Well, that, and then
right?
it does confirm that he tried to kill him that way.
Right. And so, you basically, but there, that covers, that's great. That covers, his infancy, but, you're telling me at no point could he have signed up with a military unit, because what the hell else does a kid like that do? He's obviously going to get
Criminal
lulled
organizations. I would have assumed that he'd gone into various criminal organizations. That's why he became wanted in the first place.
into,
Because I only read the trivia that he was supposed to be a military guy today, and like I don't like that quite as much.
Right.
Like if he had just been trying to survive on various other, being a criminal person, being a very good killer, maybe for a criminal person, and that's how he got into all of the various prisons, and then broken out in prisons and broken out over and over again. That's why he's notorious to the mercs. Like,
Right.
But they never overtly make him a military person, I don't, did they?
No,
don't make it
but that
No,
was
and-
that's what they
it's
were
not-
intending on, and that's like I don't
Right.
think
But
that
so
was
if they didn't
right
pull it
way.
off, it's fine.
Right. It goes back to this is a visual media. If it didn't appear on screen, it's not really canon, right? You know, like the director can say, well, this is what I thought and whatever, but he's got the opportunity to change that as much as anything. And we'll see. I mean, this has been going 20 years now. We got 2 movies. Vin Diesel always wants to do more, and now he's got, you know, I Am Groot money, but you know, so we'll see if we do get another one, because they've speculated about Furia for a few years now, right? That they were going to do an origin story type of thing, or maybe a little bit of him rediscovering his past and the like as well. But yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. And I mean, to me, like it's the special forces thing is just Hollywood shorthand for, of course he can do everything that you saw on screen.
Yeah, which is also
Yes,
lazy
he's
of them.
secretly Captain America, you know, like that's what you get. So, you know. Yeah, I mean, because you're seeing the same thing in Falcon and the Winter Soldier right now, right? Like if you've been watching that, so because this dude is special forces and he's got 3 medals of honor, he is every bit as able to keep up with Captain America. So, except for, you know, the latest episode spoilers. So
I haven't seen that yet. So.
yeah, so
They're very much rushing his descent.
there's only 6 episodes.
I know. That's the
saw,
problem.
So yeah, they should have cut in a couple more maybe, but you know.
Well, better too quick than too long, like some of those Daredevil and other Netflix Marvel series got. So
That's fair.
Yeah, but Daredevil sucked from the get-go because the best character was Kingpin, and I wanted him to win. I hated Matt Murdock, and he was insufferable. And the blonde chick was even more insufferable.
Oh yeah, no, she was terrible, but I thought most of the rest was great. Oh, Foggy, what was his name?
Foggy's fine.
Who can
He was
hate
kind of
that
a
guy?
meh.
He got a bit soap opera-y with his dialogue.
Yeah,
but that was the
But
Patty.
D'Onofrio, Kingpin,
oh, he was
I would
stellar.
happily
Is
sign him up as a villain again in whatever the MCU tries to
You
shit out in
guys-
the next couple of
You
years.
guys lost the director, so
Is it ever explained
He's
in
right there.
or in Chronicles? Because I don't remember if it is explained why he.
Mhm.
Because I know in this first movie, that's the lore about his eyes is probably what they intended. That's what they thought it was, and then they changed it for Chronicles
Yeah.
between Pitch Black and Chronicles. But is it explained why he lied?
no, I mean you're
When they
drilling
lie.
in. You're drilling in on it, and that's where my subconscious pulled the Joker vibe, right? Because you know, yeah, he's lying about it. Like it's tough to say because you get 2 different origin stories, and there's not a strong correlation that you can attribute it to his race, right? Because some of it might have been like, oh yeah, that's just Furians for you, except for then you meet another Furian in Chronicles of Riddick,
And he doesn't have the eyes.
Mm.
Yeah, so
and
like,
so
But-
it becomes, we don't have enough information unless that's covered in some other material. I'm not.
But the
familiar
whole
with, but-
I
from
think
what
it
I
is in the
vaguely
comic.
remember from Chronicles, there's a whole plot about Jack doing Riddick's path because she idolizes him so much.
Yep.
But she's like, you lied about the eyes or something.
so she
Or
took a
something like-
chance. She murdered people, got sent to a maximum security prison planet, and then when she got there, there was no doctor, and she thinks he lied about it. I just like, you took a chance to get yourself into maximum security prison, thinking that there's going to be some dude that you can pay 20 cigarettes to, and then they weren't there. Like, maybe they were dead. You shouldn't have done that, you dumbass.
Okay.
Right.
That was
I
the way
just-
I took it the whole time. Not that he had lied about it, but that, like, maybe the guy died in prison in the 10 years it took for her to get there.
Yeah, I mean, could have been, right? You know, but I think he was spinning a yarn for Jack because he was trying to like warn her off of it, not give her something to strive for, right? But his experience with children and and humanity in general is not great.
There's a
so-
guy in chat that says he didn't lie, the doc just wouldn't do it. So maybe that's why I don't remember.
I mean, her line is, there's not somebody who would do it for 20 menthol cools, let alone anybody or something
any other
like that.
price.
So yeah, so I mean, it's possible. I'm looking at there's a wiki fandom for everything these days, right? So it's suggested in the game that it's a dormant Furion trait, and then they appeared while he was having his wounds stitched up. But then other characters basically say he's always had them, but that still conflicts with the purifier.
Right.
So
I mean,
I don't
if it's
think
something that he
settled,
chose
so-
as a modifier, I think it's a much better thing than something that he was born with or was dormant, because it was his choice. And I loved how it was something that he had to suffer for. He cannot look at sunlight. He cannot be
Right.
in light without the goggles because it hurts him. But it was a choice that he made in order to protect himself, and it has its huge drawbacks. So
I felt it played very well
I-
into his
yeah.
development of his pragmatism as well.
Mhm.
Well,
And
sure.
if it was
everyone that's gonna
genetic,
try
it
and
wouldn't
kill him
do
is
it
probably
the
going to
same
do it
way.
at night instead of broad daylight, because that's not the kind of person you take on in broad daylight.
Right.
So yeah,
Interesting. So the last paragraph in here says, in Riddick, Vako tells Riddick that when the Necromonger Empire invaded Furia, he saw a male Furion who took out several of their soldiers, and his eyes were just like Riddick's. So it could
So
be a
they've changed
Furion
it 5
trait, or
times.
maybe it's Furions know how to do this thing, and the reason why she can't find anybody is because their Furions have largely been wiped out. But like the whole Furion thing is like the same problem I have with kind of the pseudo retcon of like the Jedi thing in Star Wars as well, right? Riddick is the last Furion, except for the Purifier, and except for this guy, and except for like obviously it's a planet full of people. Some of them probably escaped or were off world, and that's what Star Wars wrote themselves into, right? Because Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi are the last two Jedi, except for these 25 others that we've seen on screen so far, and Ahsoka, who's not really a Jedi, so we didn't really lie about that, right? Even though she's completely capable of completing Luke's training, like, because that's the point. You get it. He only has two teachers. Like, that's the lens of that thing. But yeah, the Furions, anytime somebody tells you they're the last of someone, I guess don't believe it,
This is just a very consistent problem with these, where they make a movie or a couple of movies and it gets popular, they expand the universe, and it's just like it's just these lore things happen, right?
because they don't care.
And like, oh yeah, we'll hand wave it away, and it gets a little
What's going to sell better, 1 Jedi or 10 Jedi?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, you get it's sort of the wizard Jedi trope as well. Like, these are the coolest guys. How can we only tell the story twice? Everybody wants to be a Jedi.
Well, unfortunately, Jedi are susceptible to that law of ninjutsu, the inverse law of ninjutsu, right? Because the more Jedis you have, and I get that people are looking into, don't you get it that the Jedi are corrupt and decadent and whatever.
I've been telling people since I was in middle school, like when the Jedi in all their wisdom tell you he's bringing balance to the Force, and over here you got 1,000 Jedi, and over here you got 2 Sith. Does nobody understand what balance looks like? So, yeah,
Balance means
inverse
no
law
bad
ninjutsu
guys.
is exactly what happened. So, sorry, Andreas. We'll find out how the Joker got these scars and Riddick got his surgical shine job at the same time. So maybe they gave it to each other. I don't know. That's weird. Never mind. So yeah, now we've got the crossover comic no one knew we needed. So Riddick gave him those scars, and that's why it's so hard to explain,
And the Joker tried to kill him as an infant.
right?
The Joker's actually the High Marshal.
The director's like, I kind of dig this.
yeah, it's like that's fine.
The Joker's his older brother, and he hated him, so he tried to strangle him in his crib.
Nice.
With
And then
his
he's
own
got to be around for the end times. That
responsibility.
explains why Joker is in, Justice League, because he's secretly Furion and he's the only one that can stop Superman. Sorry, I've gone too far. Anyway, so.
What a god
So
awful movie that was.
what movie are we doing next, or do we have more Pitch Black to talk about?
We don't. The fact that we held
I
on
was
this long
sensing
is a
that.
miracle in and of
Yeah,
itself.
we actually have like close to an hour of talking about the single movie. I'm really impressed with
Mostly?
us.
Yeah. It's a good movie. I
Yeah.
just,
I
it's
just
not
want to
like
point out.
the best, but I love it. So you know?
I don't think it could be really improved by much. Things like I guess that maybe the Riddick could have been more evil or something. I would have enjoyed that. I think maybe, but I don't.
don't wanna-
That's such even a small change. I wouldn't really say
Right.
you can't swap out these actors for anyone else because they really killed their characters and it was great. And
Mhm.
I would like more of the world building of how the fuck do these creatures survive, but it's also okay, and I think a good thing to a certain extent, leaving the questions. How would the fuck
Right.
they know and understand? Sometimes
Right.
that's a stretch. So like the questions are good.
And would it have detracted from the pacing and the overall delivery of the movie?
Yeah, because then you
Yes.
have to
Like-
contrive, like you were saying, a scene in the caves, and like what they're gonna find cave paintings. Who did the cave paintings?
Right.
Why did they do the cave paintings?
Right.
Well, obviously
I
the
don't-
mastodons did the cave painting,
Right.
so then,
I don't know how much more believable how evil Riddick could have been presented in the movie, and still have his character development be believable to the audience. Because he's like, if you know what I mean, like it's like, but yeah, I think they did a good balance on that, as it
Right.
was.
They did pretty good. I just think they could have weighted a little bit more in the one direction.
yeah. And I mean, this again, I'm gonna attribute to headcanon, but like his whole interaction with Fry, like first definitely starts out creepy. Don't get me wrong, because there's like no other reason other than shit. Honestly, I guess it's even like two main character syndrome, because it's not like there aren't other adult women present, right? Claudia
Mhm.
Black is not at all bad to look at, anything like that. So maybe he's got a thing for blondes, but by the end of it, right, she's one of the only people that has ever tried to help him, right?
Mhm.
So, like, she goes back for him, and I think that's when he's like, wait a minute,
Well,
you're
at
the
that-
first
by the
person
time
who's ever
he's,
tried to help me.
By the
So-
time he's stalking her, he probably knows that she's the one. Everyone thinks she's a captain, so she's
was-
the alpha.
Right.
He was
Quote,
when he
unquote.
was about to cut her hair is when she was explaining that she almost
So-
killed everyone. So he was
Right.
present for that.
So now
Right.
he knows she's supposed to be the leader. She's the one he would have to deal with, other than John's. If
Fair.
And he's
And-
not putting his life in John's hands.
And what he finally says at the end, when she catches up to him, is strong survival instinct. I like that, so, you're probably right. He's drawn to that personality, whereas, I mean, Claudia Black is fairly alpha in my opinion compared to like, some of the
She's
other
very
characters.
capable, like as her character being what he called him, a free settler, and very like mechanic oriented. She got things working. She figured things out. She got the oxygen pump things for them. She was a very capable character that just panicked.
well, yeah,
Right.
she was a little more one note. I think she was a little too. I mean, if you want to call it too capable, because she was just kind of like bang, 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 as opposed to you're introduced to this one who's already shitting her pants and wanting to kill everyone,
Mhm.
and then is having to keep it together. There's more nuance to it than
Right.
just being your typical, engineer tough chick.
I don't know. I like
And
the
she's blonde. So
I thought it was interesting, and I didn't notice it before, so I wonder if maybe I watched one with an inserted deleted scene or something. But Shaza gave Riddick the oxygen pump with a few
Yeah.
hits left, and when they were arguing about it, she said, "No, I'm trying to say I'm sorry,"
Mhm.
and he kept that with him up until he got to the ship. He did not put that down. Like that really meant something to him, and I only noticed it this last time watching it.
Gotcha.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean, that's a good point. If she had not been taken, maybe there would have been, that would have been something else. But if you flip the characters, it's conjecture. It's fun to think about, but
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily improve the story. It takes out the ambiguity of needing to keep Fry alive, though, because she's the pilot. At that point, you would have known Riddick is their only way off the planet.
Yeah.
If
Which, that was
you've
also
switched
fun.
those two characters, so.
Last night, husband and I got into deep discussion about basically John's character, and when he is talking about murdering Jack, he must know that there's no way that Fry is going to pilot him out off that planet after he does that. So he's also basically betting that Riddick is going to be his way off the planet and trying to trust him in some way.
well, or
Interesting.
theoretically that the two of them could strong arm her into doing it, maybe.
Right. I think in that moment, I take it as John's is very much the shotgun is the diplomat, and like I'm gonna take care of Jack, and then everybody's gonna fall in line because I've got the shotgun.
And
Like,
he was doing
and that's
it
why
in a
Riddick
conniving way.
disarms him like immediately. And it's like,
Although actually, wasn't he did say they were going to kill them both. I thought, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, because didn't he say, like, you do the girl and I'll keep the
and
others?
I'll handle everybody else.
Right,
Yeah, I'll
yeah.
keep
I think-
everybody in line.
Yeah, I think he was
something
just
like
trying
that.
to distract them, pull them away or whatever. But
Mhm.
Fry was smart enough to know, well, they're talking to each other and not hurting each other yet. Let's get back because they're being sneaky. And John was
Right.
trying to do it in a conniving way of make Riddick kill the kid. So John still looks like the good guy
Right.
so that he can still get Fry's trust. But he must know that that is taking a huge risk, that they're going to turn on him. They're not going to let him into the ship. And
Actually,
Fry's
he might have been setting Riddick up to be the fall guy. So like Riddick does that, and then he shoots him, and then Fry is.
Well, he wants him alive as much as possible.
They still
right?
need to get through the canyon.
Right.
It's like they still need him to get to the settlement. So
Okay, so
he's-
shoot him after when you get there.
Exactly. Yeah, I would. He would probably be hoping to Riddick be the bad guy, kill the kid. Fry believes him, kill Riddick right when they get to the ship, or maybe still try to tie him up because he wants to take him in for the bounty, which he gets paid twice as much if Riddick's alive, and maybe some sort of personal victory revenge on the guy who stabbed him in the back, caused him into constant pain, caused him to have an opioid addiction. I don't know. He was a very complicated character, and I didn't appreciate him as much when I was a kid.
Right. Yeah.
Because kids. are
I thought it was more of a he thought he could easily handle the pilot lady
And he-
because
yeah.
because that's what Riddick tries to do at the end too, right? Just leave them all
Right.
here. Come with me, right? And he didn't. He's just such the sociopath that he figures, oh, that's interesting that you actually would die for them. As that kind of curiosity, I think one of the best elements of the anti-hero vibe in Riddick, in the character of Riddick, is that his casual inhumanity. He sees the beauty in the evil locust bug monsters, so
Right.
that sort of thing, and that comes up right at the end too. He doesn't really change, but he appreciates how interesting and different it is that somebody would have these human.
Yeah, like he
actions.
doesn't quite understand. He understands, like, on paper he understands what she's going for, but the change in her, like, he had to be convinced by her to go save them, and he found her conflict compelling. I thought that was a very good thing, and I kind of wish they'd maybe made that a little bit more.
That's more interesting than the kind of the edgy, oh, I believe in God and I just whatever, that whole dynamic. I think that's the most interesting part of his sociopathy. Does that come up in later movies? The inhumanity bit. You talk about the wolf. I haven't seen the other ones. Is that what you're talking about with the wolf bit?
Yeah, I mean, I've only seen the Riddick movie once, I think. It wasn't truly like amazing or anything like that. I need to go rewatch it because there was some criticism that seemed foreign to me. Like his character and Katie Sackhoff's character is a really fucked up relationship apparently, and I did not entirely catch that the first time that I watched through it. So I'm gonna approach it with a different lens. So you've got some weirdness there, but some of that is probably writing as much as anything. At least the way that I heard it described. In the second movie, he is still treated by the necromongers kind of as an animal. You get Vako's wife, kind of treats him as like cattle
Exotic.
a little bit, and yeah, like as a wild animal pet instead of a person. But he is still, I feel like he's still a little bit more human. So you get some of that humanity develops a little bit. I mean, he tries to save people in the prison, but he's mostly there for Jack, Kira. So I think that's the thing, is like she's become part of his tribe, to borrow something from The Expanse. He's shit. Maybe that's why I like Amos so much. But
he's made very few connections, and he really tried to save the people that he felt connected to.
Right, including the Imam, right?
Yes.
Like it starts out there, like he happens to be there while the necromongers invade, and then gets kind of swept up on it, trying to survive them glassing the planet, so but yeah, I wouldn't say like he's particularly human, right? But he's also among monsters more. Like the necromongers are very much not human either. they have their humanity burned out of them, as the purifier discussed. Like, that's the whole purification process, is to turn them into necromongers by burning that out of them and whatever else. But I'm just trying to think, like, I think he definitely sees that what the Grand Marshal is doing is fucked. And he's like, I am happy to be the chosen one if it means stopping your ass,
And yet it was an
So-
accident. I thought that was great.
What, the kill, or?
Yeah, like he wasn't
No.
intending on taking the Empire. It was
Oh,
just
yeah, sure. Yeah,
Yeah, the consequence. It wasn't the action.
Yeah, the keep
I mean,
what
yeah,
you
yeah.
kill
once
is
it's so
great at
little,
the end, but
he runs away, right?
and that bugged me about the Riddick movie too. Is like, because I was so excited, like, what are they going to do? Because now he's Conan, right? He's the barbarian king.
Yeah.
He's got this
I have
empire, and
many complaints about that. I've only seen it once because I didn't want to watch it again, but I had a lot of complaints with the Riddick movie, and a lot of it was like, wait, you just had this empire and now you're fucked off to a planet again alone? What the fuck?
yeah. I mean, it's character, like, it's in his character to do that. Like,
it
he
is
goes
not
to
in
a
his
remote-
character to be distracted by an orgy and then booted out of a ship.
Why?
I don't know. An orgy is.
When is he ever distracted by boobs?
This
He's
movie,
been
kinda?
running from his life for 3 movies. He hasn't had a lot of boob time. Who's not distracted by boobs? Let's start there. And if
Why
you're
would you
an
be
animal,
distracted by boobs when Baco was around planning against you? He's not an
I
idiot,
mean-
but they made him an idiot in that opening, and like then it just got worse from there.
this is the beginning of the Riddick movie.
Yes.
Yeah, apparently
Mhm.
there's very little of this movie that I remember, which is not a good sign. So,
I never even bothered
especially-
watching it.
yeah.
No, this is
Like,
just
I
know-
remember some
I
of the
just know
scenes
the
with
plot
Katie
points.
Sackhoff. I remember the giant dire wolf thing, but yeah, I remember him being on, like, the ice planet was where it, like, started, right? And him
No, that was-
hunting.
that
That
was
was
Riddick.
Mercs.
Chronicles.
Chronicles of Riddick. Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Yes.
He was on the
Because
ice
that's
planet.
John's, yeah,
Because he had the
ship,
beard.
Tombs.
right? Yeah, thank you. Sorry. Toombs, I see, and I love Toombs and all those interactions,
Yeah.
like, he's such a great character, and he is not at all the cop Merc.
No.
He's just the Merc. But anyway, yeah, see, not a good sign that I can't remember hardly anything of that movie. So,
But that's
I would
for
like them
another
to do
time.
more in the world and then, like, even with the character and stuff. But that one, like, we can just forget that one existed and try again.
right. Yeah, there's so much world building for the universe, that I'd be curious about. Like, the fact that, the space travel is so common for them, but they seem to be sublight mostly.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that Riddick explaining to Johns, or explaining to everybody else what John's plan is, that they're going to take the skiff that looks like it can seat 4 people, somehow it's going to seat 8. Nobody seems to have a problem with that. It's somehow going to have the lift for that. They're going to get out to the space lane, hook out a thumb, and anybody will be around shortly. Space is really fucking big. So the
They
fact
did
that
say
the
shipping
space lane-
lanes.
yeah,
Which-
I know, but like, I don't know, man. Like, I guess I'd have to do some research on, like, what it even looks like on Earth, with, like, the Suez Canal, because it's like, I'm sure ships will be along, right? But you are in a skiff, my dude, and like, it's 20 years since that food was fresh. You're not eating nothing. So if they're not along in 4 days, like, you're shit out of luck. But in the movie, it's just like everyone's like, yeah, what he said,
Yeah.
To a certain extent, they do have to worry about that when they can get around to that problem.
Right. And that's the thing. It's like, it's just it's not important to the plot. It's just their escape, right? But
Yeah.
from a real world and world building, it's just like, that, and like them crashing, Owens, like, wait, why did I fall? Like, why is there gravity?
Mhm.
So they've got artificial gravity, but it's clearly off while everybody's in cryo. And then, hopefully we're still in the shipping lane and we're crashing,
Mhm.
like, there's so much little detail, and yet, the nerd in me wants more. But again, it would have detracted from the movie probably. Like, we got just the right amount, I think. But from the whole series, yeah, I'd love to see Star Trek.
I almost get the feeling that from watching Chronicles first, then watching Pitch Black, that it was like way different technologically than the impression I got from Chronicles. Like, way different.
Yes, and that seemed kind of jarring this time watching it, is that Johns looks like a cop. He has a baseball cap. He's wearing Kevlar. You don't see that in Chronicles of Riddick whatsoever. They're wearing armor. like plated
Right.
armor. And
Yeah,
they
it's
made
very-
a huge change, and that
It's
I
very
like the
human-centric
change.
in
Yeah.
the first one,
Mhm.
and not at all in the second one. I almost felt like in the second one, I don't even remember. Is humans a things, or are they just like kind of like in Star Wars, where humans exist throughout the universe, and that's just
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
it is.
But in this
Well,
one, they
it's-
made
it's more
references to
Dune,
Earth.
in my opinion.
Yeah, they made
you know,
specific
because
and Islam.
they're human and transhuman, right? You know, and yeah, obviously, like, you know, you have space Muslims because like their entire culture just transplanted on this planet Helios. When they're going to Mecca, they're going to New Mecca, right? Because it's space Mecca, which is presumably on Helios. But like the Necromongers are ultimately their people, but there's something different about them. Like they don't.
Some of them were
explain-
less than normal people.
Yeah, they don't explain the half dead thing. And then you know you get the critters, right? The ones that can like see through walls and track or whatever. But the ethereals, right? Like they are clearly
Elementals.
yeah, thank you. They're clearly transhuman enough to the point where it's like, well, you couldn't possibly be, and yet, you know, kind of are. But that's where I'm like, it's kind of like Dune, right? Like in Dune, they're all humans except for, you know, if you eat the spice, then you become so much more,
Mhm.
or you know, you can be trained to be so much more, or whatever. Like
We should do Chronicles someday. Not right after this, I feel like it should be some other movie, but and then continue.
yeah. Well, and I mean, I love it too. I'm not sure I would say it's perfect, you know, because there are some of these
some
quibbling
more
details
flaws.
that,
Yeah.
you know, and the pacing and just some of the other stuff, but I think it's fantastic, you know, but
It's still one
Yeah.
of my favorites, even if it's got like some notable flaws that like I can't put it as perfect. That character should have been better, but
mm,
it's very fun. And it's of
Yeah.
a genre onto its own that I would like more of.
Have you ever seen Dark City?
Yep.
yeah,
Is that on the list?
No.
it might should be, but it's funny. I think you or somebody had brought it up earlier, and we're quibbling about one thing or another about like its genre, I think, but it's like
Sure.
I think actually when I was
It's-
looking for more of this genre of Chronicles of Riddick or something, you mentioned
Mm.
Dark City because it
I
was on
did.
the list or something.
gotcha, yeah.
Oh,
It's noir though, right?
yeah,
Like, it's
sure.
not like
Well,
a,
I guess
you
what
know,
does Chronicles of Riddick really gain from this sci-fi setting? Because or at least Riddick, Pitch Black, because Pitch Black is basically a straightforward horror movie, right?
What does it
doesn't
gain
really
out of the
need-
sci-fi?
It doesn't really need to be sci-fi. It could be a western. It's more like a Bone Tomahawk than it is like Star
Crazy
Trek or Star Wars.
monsters. You need the crazy monsters.
right.
And the
Could've been-
inexplicable daylight
Bo-
to night. That's kind of too important for it
Could
to
have been
lose.
Wild Indians. or
Bone,
something.
Bone Tomahawk. That's why I mentioned Bone Tomahawk. Have you seen that?
No.
Oh, okay.
Are you mentioning movies
Is
that
it
are
from the
before like the
30s?
70s again?
No. This one. Okay. Bone Tomahawk next time? Huh?
So
Okay.
It's not. Sorry, Ben. It's not
Yeah.
on the list.
are you gonna
Okay.
let
Yeah.
Ben or Andreas pick the movie that we're gonna have to suffer through for next topic? Because
If they have a decent suggestion, something that could be arguable, not.
I
Fast
had
and Furious.
all the movies I
haven't
submitted are
argued.
great, and I put forth Donnie Darko.
You're not
Yeah.
making this easy for me, Andreas. I'm trying to reestablish my credibility. Don Dark was good. Don Dark was good, but it's not best perfect movie kind of good.
right.
Yeah.
And that's where I'd like to see us get at some point, but there's just so many perfect movies to talk about before then. Yeah.
Mhm.
Would you just take turns pick, and then the other guys just gotta suck it up?
Maybe we should just roll a die, you know,
Maybe.
on who gets to pick next and let fate decide. So. The director's like, no, my control, and the fact that I've been picking every movie up to this point. So
Well, you want me to
which again,
direct.
Like, I'm happy to take a step back because other than Ben and Andreas, like all the suggestions have been great. So you know, I don't have any don't have any
Okay,
complaints.
Bone Tomahawk.
So-
Come on. If you
Yeah,
like,
see, the
okay, so-
problem is like you guys suggest shit that like nobody's seen again, you know. So it's like I don't know.
What do you mean?
like,
Okay.
maybe.
The movies I put forth are Chef, Goodfellas, The Martian, Good Will Hunting, Donnie Darko, and V for Vendetta. Those are the movies that I submitted as
all
my
right.
perfect movies.
I think you lost me at Chef was the problem, right? I was like, what the hell is this movie?
Yeah.
I
And,
really
like,
love that
on
movie. I
paper,
would
it looks
change nothing
great,
about
but-
it.
but I've never heard of it until you suggested it. So
Yeah, there's kind of this weird catch-22. Like for us to feel comfortable talking about this for a whole hour, hopefully, then we have to like know, like, is this good enough for this, or am I going to hate you for making me watch
Fair
it?
enough. Justin,
yeah.
Justin, set aside some time next week. Watch Bone Tomahawk, and then we'll talk about it in 2 weeks. And not on the podcast, but you can vouch for it or not. Was it a perfect movie? But don't watch it with the kids. It's not that kind of Western.
Gotcha.
Tombstone should be on that list, by the way.
Like the Val
The
Kilmer
Western.
Tombstone?
Yeah.
The Western. Thanks for narrowing that down for us.
The only Tombstone I know, Justin.
Only a European would have to put that qualifier in there. Like, so there
probably have been remakes of it, right? Like I wouldn't be surprised if that was. I don't know.
wasn't there was a more recent Tombstone. That's why I was clarifying. So,
I have never heard of any other than the one.
or at least there was another one that like, so 93, I mean, there's 42, but that's Ben's wheelhouse. So what was the one that was, maybe it wasn't called Tombstone, but it obviously dealt with the same, I'm sure IMDb will be like, more movies like this, Bow and Tomahawk. So, because that's the problem, right? Like, like I look at more like this, and then you guys are like, also this complete other movie. So no.
Okay, so if it has to, I think it should be one of my movies now. And then if I can't pick which one, then Alex, you have to pick one of the movies I submitted.
I mean, that might be fair, have you pick from his list, but because at least they were a suggestion. And
yes.
But
all right, we'll figure things out, because we do have to like put a break into talking about movies just so we can talk about other shit at some points.
yes,
Just once in a while, we have to get it out. So yeah, we'll figure things out. We'll announce the topic, I guess, at Dresden. Pay attention to all of our stuff.
Yeah, watch your things.
Yeah. Bye bye.